For such a time as this, I'm Chaim Goldman. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. I'm calling today's episode Emuna, Walking in Faith. Emuna is the Hebrew word for faith, and what I'm going to be sharing with you today is one of the most profound things that I have ever learned in my walk as a believer. I know that's a big statement, but I'm going to follow up on it, and I think you'll understand it too, because within this framework of understanding what Emuna, faith, from a Hebraic perspective, from a Jewish perspective, is so important to be able to process what goes on in your life, around the world, and to be able to look at it from a heavenly perspective. Now, one of the best books that I've ever read, one of the best authors, one of the best speakers, teachers I've ever learned from is a man, a rabbi, Orthodox rabbi by the name of Shalom Aruch. I will say right off, by his own proclamation, as far as I understand, he is not a believer in Yeshua, Jesus, as the Messiah. And yet, what this man has written in the books that I've written of his and as the talks that I've heard of his, and he only teaches and writes in Hebrew. He has a translator named Laser Brody who actually brings it into English for him, is this understanding of emunah, of faith at such a deep level that I needed to share this with you. Regardless of what the man claims that he believes, I believe from what I've read of him that he really does hear by the Holy Spirit. We can talk about whether that's possible another time, but again, you're watching my video, please hear me out. So this is a book that he wrote called The Garden of Emunah, and it's all about faith. He also wrote an amazing book called The Garden of Peace, which I think is one of, if not the greatest marriage book ever written. Check it out, and it's just for men. Check it out. Guys, you'll know what I mean. Tough book. But getting back to faith, I wanted to read, there's one paragraph in here about what the word emunah means in the Hebrew, at least from his perspective. He is an Orthodox Jew, Hasidic, Bratslav, I believe the sect, and they are very spiritual. They have a lot of insight. I think more than any other sect or portion of Judaism, they are more evangelical Christian than any other. I won't go into why that is, but the things that they think, the things that they say, the things that they make important are very, very close to what we as born-again believers do. So emunah, it's very important, and when in these books, they don't translate emunah into the word faith. They leave it as emunah. Why? Because in English, you can have faith in a lot of things. You can have faith in the Almighty, but you can also have faith in your job. You can have faith in your marriage. You can have faith in money. You can have faith in many, many things, in yourself. But emunah only means faith in Him, and this is the specific definition from this book. Emunah is the original biblical Hebrew term for a firm belief in a single, supreme, omniscient, benevolent, spiritual, supernatural, and all-powerful creator of the universe, which we refer to as God, or in Judaism they say Hashem, which means the name because they don't pronounce the name. He alone cares for each of us in a unique, tailor-made fashion according to our own individual needs. I hope that you picked up from that own individual unique, that Judaism does believe in a very personal God. A lot of people teach that Judaism doesn't do that. But Judaism, at least this group, teaches very much a very personal God. And faith in Him means complete faith in only Him, nothing else, that we place our faith in nothing else. And I'm sure there are many verses you can come up with right now that instruct us to do that. So when we look at emunah and we try to bring it into our life, right, we want to walk in faith. What does that mean? Well, they've actually systematized it in a process that allows me, and if you understand it and implement it, will allow you to very quickly go from a place of no faith to a place of very high faith in practical ways, very practical ways in every way of your life. So this is how it's explained. There are 3 levels of Emunah, and we have to attain them like stairs. We have to attain them to go to the next level. The first one is what's called divine providence, which is that God is in everything. Everything. It's His universe. He created it all. We're in Him. And everything that goes on, He is in it. Not 99.9%. Now, why is that so important? Well, I think that there's a tendency, I know that there's a tendency, when things, especially when they're troubling, is to say, God's not here, He's not in this, or where are you, God? You know, that He's actually not there. Sort of the flip side of that, or the other way that humans process it, is to think that He's not in the little things. He doesn't, He cares about our faith and He cares about our big moral decisions. But what I do for a living, or what I watch as far as entertainment, or how I, treat an illness, what any of these decisions, or even what I choose to eat or to not eat, He doesn't care. Well, if we truly have faith, and if we adopt this understanding, which I will attest to you, I believe is completely true, if we take this to understand that He is in everything, we can't dismiss Him, okay? There's a lot more to that, but going to step 2. Once we get that, we go to step 2, and we understand that He is good. He only knows how to be good. And so that everything that happens, considering that everything happens, He's in it, is good. Now, that's hard to take a lot of the times, because so much of what happens, here we are, I'm recording this on the 14th of April, 2020. We're in the middle of this whole coronavirus mayhem. And we would think, how in the world could this be good? Well, if God's in everything, then He's in this. And if He's good and can only do good, then this is good. It may not feel good. It may feel awful. And in a lot of ways it does. And yet, from His perspective, and if we're to have a kingdom mindset, we need to get His mind, His perspective. This is good. And by our own experience, how many times have we thought something was bad? It turned out to be good. We thought something was good. It turned out to be bad. We have to admit that we don't know, but He does. And so we approach things that happen to us as He's in it and it's good. Step 3. Step 3 is it's happening for a purpose. We may not like the purpose, but it's not our universe, is it? It's His purpose. And so within that purpose, we have to understand that He's having His way. And so there's a 3B, and the 3B is crucial, because the 3B is really where we get to be involved. And that 3B is finding out what the purpose is. Because if we do that, we move from you're not here, or you don't care, and we move through, oh, this is horrible, and we move to, I want to get the mind of our Father in heaven on this. And that, I believe, is what makes all the difference between non-believers and immature believers and the mature sons of God that the creation has been groaning for to be revealed. And what I do, because I want this, I want to be mature, is this is the question I say to Him. I say, Father, what is this about? What is this about? Because it's so easy to go, woe is me. It's so easy to go, this is horrible. But when we get to the point where we can say, what is this about? I believe the Father says, that's the question that I want you to ask. That is what a mature child would ask. Now I can tell you. And I have to say from personal experience, when I dwell on that and I trust the Father, I love the Father, I say you're there, I know this is for good, I move through this problem. I'm not saying that I start at 3B. It's very natural, and pretty much every time I will start, just like you, at 0. And then step 1, and then step 2 and step 3. But the faster that I train myself to go boom, 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 and get to 3B as fast as possible, the faster the Father is able to give me an answer. And that answer fills me with hope, which is what faith is supposed to do. It fills me with purpose. which is what faith is supposed to do. When I submit and commit myself to what faith really means and don't allow myself to practice those things that are not faith or the really low levels of moving up through faith and get to the mature one, boom, the Father is able to speak to me. And I find that that happens very, very frequently. He often will just answer my question and what I'm supposed to do. Sometimes he gives me a word that I then can share with you because I believe that it's more of a universal truth than just an individual directive. But if we really want to understand Emunah, I believe, like in so many things, that we need to look back to Judaism because they've been considering for 3,500, if we want to go back to Abraham, 4,000 years, have been considering what it means to walk this walk of faith. And I'm not saying, okay, and let me turn off my timer. If you've watched my previous, come on, turn off. If you've watched my previous teachings, I set a timer for about 10 minutes and then seek to land the plane. I'm not saying that Judaism has all the answers. Certainly, for the most part, Jews, I'm not one of those, but Jews have rejected Messiah Yeshua. But why did Messiah come to Israel? It was because they had the foundation of the Torah, because they believed in the one true God when everybody else on the planet didn't. There are things there that we as believers, if we ignore these thousands of years of wisdom, really thought out, heartfelt, and I would even say spirit-inspired wisdom, then we do that to our own detriment and we walk around in weakness. When have you ever heard what I just taught you in under 10 minutes from when I started teaching on Emunah? When have you ever heard this taught in church? When have you ever heard this taught from a Christian leader? And yet, we all want faith and we all want to walk boldly in faith. And I tell you, if you would meditate on this, and I know I've had to review this a lot on my own, my children know it. If I say to my children, what are the 3 steps of Emunah? Boom, they can say it. Is 1, he's in everything. 100% of everything. 2, everything he does is for good, which means everything that's going on is for good, his good. And 3, it has a purpose. 3b, we need to find out what that purpose is so that we have his mind, we're in his program, and that we're walking in true faith. And the question that I most like to ask when I can get myself over those lower levels and get up to 3b is, Father, what is this about? We're in this age where everything is upside down. There's so much tumult. Please listen to my earlier videos in this for such a time as this series because I've shared on what I think this is about. And I will continue to as he shows me. You need to know what you're supposed to be doing in this time, in this season. You need to have the mindset that doesn't say, woe is me, that doesn't say this is bad, that doesn't say this has no purpose, but that you quickly get to the point where you say, Father, what is this about? So he can tell you what you, yes, you, kingdom ambassador, you need to do in our generation for such a time as this.